Really wanted to tell a story about Hacker because at the time I had been reading a lot about it in the news, but it wasn't quite the public conversation, especially now. I mean, what was our tagline in the first season? Was "Our democracy has been hacked." That was before our democracy actually was hacked. But so I didn't know we were marketing the future, but I really thought we were talking about something that was bubbling right underneath the surface, and I thought it was really important, and I thought it was relevant. I wanted to be a hacker. I was just really bad at it, and at NYU, to impress a girl, I hacked into her college's mailing list and sent out this weird manifesto about how to not be a conformist, and it was really dumb. And I did it from the computer at the computer lab where I worked. And so it was pretty easy to bust me. And so I got fired and put on academic probation. And I said, I'll just write stories about hackers as opposed to actually be a hacker.
A little safer.
And something is as well written as it was makes it so much easier. It just makes you want to do it as best you can, give everything to it. And it doesn't feel like acting anymore. It feels like it's just you're almost speaking in tongues. It's coming out of you because it's so well written and comes from such a soulful, honest place.
Right.
And that's how, I mean, everything I pick up of Sam's is that way. So that's the gift of it all.
Tommy, I mean, I'd seen Night at the Museum, yeah. Sure. Yeah. So I thought, hey, this kid's pretty good. He's perfect for Elliot. Yeah. So, yeah, and I said, I think this kid's pretty good. I think he's maybe an up and comer. So I was thinking.
One of the cool things about our show is that it kind of changes the view of hackers and hacking culture and what a hacker looks like. And that it's not, people have this idea that it's like someone in the basement of their mom's house, like sitting at the computer. So I'm always, was down to create like our own thing of here's like a cool girl who is really smart and a great hacker.
We are continually let the current events sort of inspire us because that's what we feel passionately about. That's what feels relevant. And it's sort of, at the time, hacking was just sort of right underneath the surface, bubbling. And then literally the day we got picked up, the Sony hack happened. Mm-hmm. The day we got picked, and then again, a year later, I don't have to tell you guys, you witnessed it. It happened in our general election. And all the other stuff. The Ashley Madison thing happened like a couple weeks before that episode aired. So
Person being killed on the air, on TV.
Yeah.
Many different, we could go on and on. It's like Assange and Snowden and all of that coming to a head during the run. It's unbelievable.
But I think that's part of the reason why, again, I think people connected to the show is that we wanted to talk about now. I mean, the show is still set in 2015 for that reason, is that we wanted it to be, we didn't want it to be dated. I mean, with movies about tech, it's always going to eventually be dated, right? Like the computers and the phones are going to change every few years. But we wanted, so we specifically said this is about now, this is about 2015, so it's almost like a period piece of current day, and that was a really important thing.
In order for Sam to direct every episode, we have to shoot the entire season as if we were doing a film. One long, I don't know, maybe 12, 13, 14-hour film. And so as you do it in film, you don't shoot everything in sequence. I mean, it's very rare when you do. So we can be shooting something from the first episode of season 4 and the final episode of season 4 in the same day, and that can be quite traumatic. But when you have someone who you implicitly trust, that not only is the visionary behind the show, but has written it, knows exactly where we're going, as he said from day one, knows the ending of this. That's the only way I would sign up to do it in this fashion, is to have someone, there is no one like Sam, so to have Sam leading the charge. And you can come in as prepared as you want, but I will miss things undoubtedly that you do as you're struggling to compile this many episodes and perform them as this long series, and always Sam will redirect me in the right place and remind me of all the circumstances, as he does all of us. So that's what you come in with, knowing that you have someone there who has your back throughout and will never let you fail.
Some of the more memorable, more out there things, such as season, I want to get the numbers right, season 2, episode 6, which basically is like, it unfolds like an 80s sitcom.
fun.
It was so unexpected and outside the box. Maybe, Sam, if you could just, why? And then you guys, what it was like to do that.
Well, again, it starts from Elliot's emotional journey, and that's what that conversation was about. That the end of the prior episode, Elliot was being beaten brutally by Ray and his men, and we wanted to show how Mr. Robot steps in and protects Elliot in those instances. And so we thought, well, Mr. Robot will take over, and then Elliot will go somewhere. And the somewhere was, well, where is that? At first we were going to be with Mr. Robot, but we thought, well, wait a minute, what's the interesting thing here is, how do we stay with Elliot? What does that look like? What is that world? And then when we started to throw around ideas about, well, what's Elliot's safe place, his comfort place? And I remember growing up, it was TGIF. I used to watch all those shows, Step by Step and Perfect Strangers and Full House and
Growing Pains, was that
Growing
one too?
Pains and and what's the one with Alex P. Keaton?
Family Ties?
Family Ties, and there was just something about those shows that, especially again growing up as a kid of immigrants, that show, there was a slice of normalcy that I didn't have. And so that's how the conversation started about, well, Elliot's Safe Place is one of those sitcoms that he remembers so fondly as a kid.
It looked fun to play. I mean, for you guys, was that
It was hilarious. And we,
No, it was so
we
much fun.
shot it like
Yeah.
exactly like that show would be shot. We had the 3 cameras set up. I mean, the backdrop, and I mean, it was unbelievable. We all felt pretty freaky doing it. You know, it was, and then of course to have that little frickin' puppet come running around was
Alf.
nicest
Christian,
guy ever.
Alf.
Right.
No, I didn't want to give it away. That's what just in case.
Now we're doing spoiler alert.
Retroactive.
Of all the things. Believe me, that's a real.
Season 3, episode 5, all in one continuous shot. How did that work? Yeah.
Well, again, that conversation started with Elliot's emotional journey. So at the end of the prior episode, he had kind of come back in, witnessing Angela and Mr. Robot and Terrell working together, and then he gets kind of taken out by Angela. And so the next episode, I wanted to be with him in real time as he starts to remember, because I thought to myself, would he know right away, or would it just be this sort of nagging thing in the back of his head? And if I could be with him for every second of those thoughts as he's trying to piece it together, as he's trying to remember, it's almost like you're waking up from a dream and you're still trying to hold on to, well, what actually happened? Was that a dream? You know, sometimes when you wake up and you think the dream was real and you're in that kind of hazy phase. That's what I wanted the beginning of the episode to feel like. So that's where the kind of real time aspect came into play. And then we were going to actually, halfway through the episode, we were going to actually start cutting when we switched point of views to Angela. But at a certain point, we were like, no, this makes sense. Even the Angela side of the story felt more tense and more impactful if we stayed with her in real time. So that's kind of how. Yeah, that
And
whole
USA aired it without.
I mean,
breaks.
again, I gotta give them credit. No commercials, and they aired it straight through. And honestly, half the stuff, just even doing the sitcom episode, I just kept waiting for them to fire me.
and the commercials for that
and
too.
the commercials for that. So instead, what they didn't fire me, thankfully. Thank you, USA. And instead, what they did was they were so excited they went out to advertisers and they were able to air actual old commercials from the 80s and 90s. So yeah, they've been
Surprised I wasn't in one. You know? I did like You Bet Your Lifesavers.
Yeah, things have changed, and they just wouldn't have happened this way without this role and this show and this group. I'd done some things I thought were special in the past, and they still are. But this show gave me just put me in a position where people could see what I was capable of doing in a phenomenal series that I think. I will say it did revolutionize the way we looked at television on cable. This show did, and it revolutionized how we looked at who the characters we wanted to follow were and what they had to say, and it just gave me a platform to run the gamut of emotions that a character could play. I mean, over one season, I thought, what is left for him? And now over 4, I think it's going to come to a phenomenal end. I can't obviously say how, but it's been an extraordinary experience, and I would never have had the opportunities that I had without this show.
We're going to break some news today about season 4.
They just want to know the news. They just want to know about the show. So I'll just jump ahead. So basically, going back to my earlier comment about being a fan of British television, typically how they wrap up their series is anyone here a fan of British television? Do you know what they typically do at the end? Like the British Office, which, they tend to do a Christmas special. And so the final season of Mr. Robot is one very long Christmas special. It'll last over about a week over Christmas of 2015.